Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers episode, this one for patch 2505, otherwise known as 15.5. Well, in this one, we've got a lot of weird changes to the game with the lane swap mechanics. Axiom Arcust has been nerfed, Sixth Sense has been buffed again, and a few changes to champions, with new ones arriving in this list. As always, we will go over the best for the general population, as well as low and high MMR, but to apply this to your jungling principles and climb as fast as possible, you absolutely must head to Virkayu.gg. Not only do I have a free jungle improvement resource, I also have a dedicated program with jungle video courses, jungle coaching, coaching classes, a jungle VOD library. We already have a lot of community VOD reviews and coaching classes for Season 15, sharing all the tips and tricks to reach new peaks in this season. All the fundamentals you need for right now are available in a ridiculous amount of hours for content tailored for your MMR so you can climb to reach your peak rank as fast as possible. So to hit your peak rank in Season 15 and jungle diff every game you play, head to the link in the description below or to Virkayu.gg. And on the S tier page is DARIUS. Now he's very popular in general because he's easy to play. He's got that cringe snowball mechanic that once he's ahead, it becomes quite difficult to deal with him, and people like that for solo queue, for obvious reasons. However, why is he so damn good now, all of a sudden, as if by magic? Well, a couple years ago, I made a few videos on Darius jungle when he went through a bit of a phase. There was a rank 1 guy playing him. It was your general Trinity Force, Strikebreaker builds, but nobody really cared at all. Riot buffed a whole bunch of champions for their clear speeds back in 2021. Darius's passive was one of those things. And it's the only one of those champions that has not been nerfed since then in terms of their jungle clear speed. But one of Darius's biggest problems is that you can perhaps kite him with mobility and range and CC, of course. When you decide to, snowball with Yumus and Swifties and Deadmans and Force of Nature, what exactly are you kiting? You can't. People have realized, since Agurin started popularizing this a little bit recently, sorry to all the OTPs that were doing this all along, I understand, that the movement speed hack here is absolutely crazy. It's almost a little bit like Trundle. When Trundle's W was just way too good, he was moving around the map so fast while attacking everything with high attack speed, it's very tough to maintain parity with him in terms of getting around the jungle. Same with Viego's E, even without the map scaling. Now Darius can clear really quickly once he ramps up. His first full clear, I had an OTP I coached actually 2 seasons ago already, literal OTP jungle Darius guy from Finland. Lovely dude. But his clear was pristine. I've yet to see one better, and he was on the map doing whatever the hell he wanted. So if Darius can clear quickly, and if you have movement speed to get around the map and stick to targets, and of course kill them, remember you've got a missing HP heal on your Q, you've got a 90% slow on your W, the champion is obnoxious and in your face. And by the way, your bleed passive applies to all grubs at the same time, which means you can do them all at the same time, which means you're healthy and no one can fight you on them at all. So in a meta when people are forcing things still, he wins. The fact that it has not been hotfixed is very funny to me, but it's really cool to see these new champions rise up. That has been the most stale factor of jungle for years, and I'm loving what I'm seeing. And on a stale note, yeah, Nocturne can be like a bit of a letdown, but again, if Riot ain't gonna be nerfing it and people are not gonna be playing it and he's gonna just sit here being really damn good all the time, I'm gonna leave him up. Much like most junglers in this situation, Kha'Zix used to fill the spot for many years before, recent memory has affected him. But with Nocturne, yes, you can kind of deal with the Darius a little bit. You've got the spell shield that does help a lot. You can also ban him. I think everybody should be banning him. Play around your 6, get your grubs, ult bot lane. Don't make your ult telegraphed, ult in unique ways and special ways, path uniquely. Don't make it very obvious that you're pathing top to bottom, ulting bottom. Then you can be counter ganked, and that does happen a lot. That's how we coach it. Be mysterious when you're Nocturne, and you will win more. I know people can complain about Diana and think, oh, she's nerfed, she's weak. I don't really think she's that weak at all because, again, base damage buff means her scuttle crab fights and all that early stuff is better now because it was from rank 1 that those base damages were buffed. And because she's building more into those bruiser pseudo-tank situations, she doesn't need as much, damage because you can't kill her and she still kills you because her base damage was buffed as well. They're gonna have to deal with her again, but I don't really think that'll be for now. She's in a reasonably balanced spot. I say that while gritting my teeth. I think she's obnoxious, but, we gotta be objective. Master Yi is another one that's obviously something people don't enjoy. If you don't have a champion that can kind of deal with Darius, one of your team bans Darius, you're in low elo, it's not bad to ban Yi. For sure, there can be other obnoxious things depending on your MMR, like, just banning Bel'Veth, but Master Yi does deliver the same sensation for most people, and it gives them a little bit of a, hey, I'm about to be CC'd, Q. Hey, I need to kill that tank, haha, true damage, which they buffed. But he is a stat checker, and that's what he does, and yeah, there you go. Graves is having such a weird season for me. Up and down the tier list, I don't really know where to place him in my own personal do I hate Graves or not, because everybody kind of feels differently about certain champions. Objectively though, he is really in and out of the meta depending on matchups. Again, the jungle nature of experience and gold and objectives, this suits him. The counter jungling suits him. The fighting and using his range suits him. So why is he always like either strong or weak? A lot of this depends on who's most picked and who he's dealing with, but also just in terms of the skill of the player base in those things. There's a lot of confounding variables when it comes to talking about Graves' position. Factually, the loss of Eyeball did hurt him a lot. The loss of the Umbral Tech did hurt those builds a lot. The buff back to Dark Harvest has brought him back into the fold. Ultimately, here's the punchline with Graves, whether he's on the S tier, the A tier, or nowhere tier. He is good if you are good and if you build and play correctly. The champion simply rewards a skilled jungler playing well. But he does have weaknesses you can exploit with any of the junglers on this list, and that's where we can leave it. Whereas Kayn is a little bit different. We all know Kayn is juicy fresh. Ras has been good for months and months and forever all time. Blue Kayn is one that kind of goes up and down, and now everybody's like, yes, but Ras was weak at that one time. No, Ras was weak if you didn't build him properly. As a systematic champion, he's always been good even if the winner data was a little lower. But Blue Kayn, direct buffs, the Dark Harvest buffs, everything we've mentioned in the last patch still remains. He's still the absolute best assassin for solo queue to dominate, win, and climb. This is obviously very different from Elise, who is basically an assassin, from support as well as jungle. Now, nerfs to the base damage of her human Q and spider Q, you're thinking, oh, well, that's it, doomed. She does 10 damage on her spider Q at rank 1. No one cares. The damage is overkilling still. The buff to a W has been massive for everything that a jungler wants to do. Because we do objectives, we clear camps, we actually really benefit from the sustained W buff. If you cocoon someone and let loose a combo, it's more than enough to, keep you going in those extended fights, especially with the cooldown refresh that is not better. This base damage nerf is laughable. It does do a little bit of a thing, but as you're seeing from the footage, it's just still doing way too much damage in single target scenarios. But then again, she's still doing a ridiculous amount of single target damage, but those of us who have played for, 10 plus years know this. This is what our reality is with Elise. Early powerhouse, mega assassin, single target damage falls off later in the game. That's where Dark Harvest is, a bit more useful to you than Electrocute, but those things don't really matter if you execute a high-tempo jungle game plan to perfection. And what's really funny to me is Fiddlesticks is for sure S tier in my opinion. I think in a lot of people's opinion, he has been like this for years until, the removal of mythic items. As people have figured out, Leandries with the health, with the tick damage, with the Shadow Flame, with the Zhonya's, it's just the best way to go. And when they removed mythics and they brought all of this stuff back, the beginning of last year, I ran this in Zyra, and I still kind of do run this in Zyra, and people are now all running it in Zyra. I told Fiddle mains to go the same build. It just hits the same exact notes of why we want to build it. And overall, with the Fog of War, the farming, the level 6 play, and ultimately, no game is out of reach in terms of comebacks if you hit the right skill shots. Now, yeah, the Electrocute is the way to go if you want mega damage, but the Comet tech that I talked about in the builds video has a lot of credence as well, much like Zyra. We can go Electrocute with the new buff and the huge damage single target, or we can proc our Comet a lot more and use heavier focus on the Axiom Arcanist. With the Axiom Arcanist being nerfed and damaged, some people were overreacting. And I'm looking at that nerf and I'm saying, no one is buying this for the damage. Well, Udyr is, but most champions are not. They want the cooldown. I want the cooldown, especially if my ultimate is high base damage, high scaling, and I simply don't need the boost of damage. I just need it up more often. That, my friends, is where Fiddlesticks comes in with this rune, and so he is still just as strong as he was a couple days ago. Now, where it was really funny to watch Elise gameplay, collecting it for the video, when you collect Jarvan gameplay, it's basically melatonin, puts you to sleep. I like that joke, and Toots made it, not me, but I agree with it. You know why? Because I've said for years that he is a stamp collector jungler. Not to throw shades on people's hobbies, you do what makes you happy, you play what makes you happy. But I mean, come on, we can agree on this, yes? However, if you want free elo and you just want to press buttons really easily, play to flex, clash, whatever, here you go. Farm, kill people, ult people, snowball, get in their face. Not very difficult. Hecarim, on the other hand, there's layers to this. We put easy to play and pick up for the difficulty in these champions. And again, that's kind of what this means, right? Pick up, not master or anything like that. Can you just take this champion and go? Yes. But Hecarim has a higher skill cap, way more so than Jarvan, especially now. In terms of the smarter Hecarim is really having a way better win rate than the less smart Hecarim. For him, it's all about this balance of farming, 6, when to rotate. A lot of Hecarims over-rotate to stuff, they overcorrect, and a lot of Hecarims farm too much and don't just gank normally when they could, using that kit with Ghost with the E to truly impact the map in a powerful way. Most Hecarims are just too passive, and over-aggressive Hecarims are just too inty. You split the difference, and nothing will stop you until you reach Challenger. Much like Kindred, weird position lately in that they're super duper good, You could put them in the S tier here and no one would bat an eyelid. In fact, I would put them here if I, had different rules for my own tier list. But I make best junglers, not, let me list all the junglers and put 12 of them in A tier. But the one thing we would all agree on is that Kindred, when played with the right amount of aggression, not suicidal aggression like a Graves or a Balveth player, but intelligent aggression. You are not AFK farming, you are stacking marks, you are pressuring junglers, you're using your snowball range component, and yes, we say this all the time, but how many times do you watch a Kindred farm, gank a little bit, do nothing, get invaded by you, and then all of a sudden they actually can't stack their marks and they're useless? Many Kindreds, in fact, are like this. A good Kindred player is the one that makes you feel like you do not have enough oxygen in space, and that's a sensation I want you to inflict upon enemies should you play this champion. Vi, on the other hand, I'm putting here really as a nod to look. This champion has been nerfed a lot because of pro play, point and click, easy in the age of mobility, to lock down the most obnoxious and disgusting champion designs known to man. Things like Zeri, things like Smolder. And when you attach half an IQ point to them in the form of Yuumi, you kinda need it a bit more. And therefore her win rate is a little bit, down in solo queue. But that doesn't mean she isn't good. The more boring regular builds will work, but people are kind of running that more. In solo queue, you need a bit more oomph, a bit more assassin. So whether you go the full lethality kind of build we put in the builds video last week, or just the more Trinity Force focused builds, it does help you have, yes, more squishiness and death, but also allows you a lot more agency in your games to offset the nerfs that she's had to hold on to for the past year. Warwick, on the other hand, is in a great position for climbing. I don't think you would necessarily say, hey, you can get to Master Tier with it, but as someone who did that, over half a decade ago when it was considered insane to do that, you still can. There are champions that will be better suited to that kind of journey, but I do think he's in such a great spot. He's kind of like what I said about Hecarim mixed with a Kindred. If you confuse those two things together, Diamond is 100% easy to get, and you can do it with the builds we have. I've mentioned the Trinity Force Titanic build as well. That's my old school tech from many moons ago, but also on something like Volibear that I used when he was down and out. It's by far one of the best things you can build on Warwick against champions that can actually out DPS you like a Yi. Just burst that fool, kill him, and move on with your life. And then obviously we have the Strybreaker, Titanic, and Blade of the Rune King mixtures. Great build diversity, great meta with a lot of fisting and rotation. Really enjoys going hand to hand with anybody. Yeah, honestly, the sky's the limit. Balveth has been S tier for her entire life, and even if she's not on this kind of list, doesn't mean she's not good. Just means I don't recommend someone walking up and picking her up and playing her. But after Balveth did things to me that I cannot relay into this video without being demonetized, I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm convinced again that she is absolutely obnoxiously heinous. Now that would be anecdotal, so the objective evidence is look at her data. It's always good, the win rate's always insane, her itemization never changes, and she's basically the Kindred game style times 15. And she now scales better because they buffed her Lavender stacks last year, even though they nerfed her Q, so they removed her kind of coin flip invades from the Grey school of thought, but champion is goated if you want to climb in solo queue. The next one, Karthus, is not necessarily goated if you want to climb in solo queue, unless you enjoy the fields of farming, looking upon your field of sheep as if you're actually Welsh, no offense to all 5 of you, and then you notice in the distance a comet about to destroy your entire farm, and all you do is you look at it and with your mind it explodes. That is how you jungle Karthus. You didn't have to move. Next up we have Nuna and Willump, and if you want to move you can do that. And in our jungle club we have a guy going from now iron all the way up to gold in a very short period of time, and he's doing it on Nunu and Willump. It's a beautiful climb, champion has amazing builds, and despite this, people keep burning down their houses thinking they've cooked up the best batch of pancakes. Guys, stop overthinking it. Go Liandry's, go tank. You don't need to do anymore. It gives you enough haste, enough movement speed, enough damage, all the tankiness in the world, the ability to engage, to peel. Why are you saying I need more damage? You don't. Why are you saying you need more haste? You don't. You have absolutely everything you need. I understand you might not like that build, but it is the fact of the matter that that is the best way to go. And of course, you can go Aftershock if you want. We spoke a little bit about this in the builds video last week as well, so have a look at that. Now, we have in front of us the low elo page, and it's hilarious to think that 3 patches ago, we would have all gone, what is going on? But it's 2025, and apparently batch shit is what we're used to. Darius 1, Yorick 2. They thought they could nerf the R maiden damage to epic monsters and it would stop Yorick. Right, games. That was not the problem. Anyone who's played against a good Yorick jungle knows the problem is, once he's got that first clear down and he starts snowballing a little bit, he's in your face, eating your camps alive, eating you alive, then he's taking all the grubs, split pushing like a monster, and in a 1v1 sense, it's very difficult for a lot of champions to actually match up to him when he gets that lead. And then he chucks in the Liandry's build and his ghouls are munching your soul. Of course, you've met Darius, and then the standard boys here, Nocturne, Amumu, Warwick, Yi, Briar is a great one for low elo. Don't recommend it beyond Diamond, still think there's huge downsides to that. Can you do it? Sure. Can you do the Trinity Force Titanic Warwick tech? Yeah, there's a guy doing that as well. There's a lot of ways you can build her, and of course Diana. But for a high elo, things get a lot more interesting, and you're gonna notice this. Yes, Darius is obnoxious here too, but Virkayu has become a skill issue pick. You know why? Because they nerfed all of his damage and people haven't figured out how to build properly and play around that damage. When you have less, when you clear slower, how do you make up that tempo and how do you just not out-stack check people? That's where the skill is. And obviously he's not always just blindingly easy like a Trundle. The same goes here for things like the Kindred and the Lee Sin and high elo. Graves is here, Hecarim is here. Yeah, Elise is here as well. Nothing that you feel is out of place. A Pantheon, shout out to that one. Win rate's a little lower, but super good pick if you know how to execute that pressure. Too many Pantheons are waffling around rivers looking where to drop their testicles instead of just playing jungle and using their ultimate more like a Nocturne, but the snowball, the stun, the point and click, very, very powerful. Those are your best junglers, and if you need to understand how to jungle with control with any of these, click the video on your screen now. Goodbye.